there, today's video I'm going to share with you the pros and the cons of living in Utah, coming from someone who wasn't born and raised in Utah. We relocated from Nashville, Tennessee 2 years ago to Utah, and we absolutely love living here. And so I want to share with you today the pros and the cons of living in Utah, and hopefully you decide to make that move here to Utah. And I'm getting after it right now. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Greg Spackman. I'm with the Living in Salt Lake City channel. So if you want to learn everything about what it's like to live here, eat here, sleep here, play here in the Salt Lake City and Utah area, then please click the subscribe button and the bell to be notified every time I do new videos. I've been getting a ton of people that are just like you that are reaching out to me about making that move to Utah, whether it's Salt Lake City or St. George or Ogden, wherever. Everybody's moving to different parts of Utah, and I absolutely love it. So if that's you, give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email, and we can talk about which part of Utah you want to live in. And so let's get on with the pros and the cons. So con number one on my list, and this is the thing that I've had a lot of people reach out to me about, and that's the alcohol rules here in Utah. And so if you're not an alcohol drinker, then you can just skip con number one, but you may want to know what it is. So here it is. We have the strictest laws in the nation here in Utah as far as alcohol rules. DUI limit 0.05. It's different per person about how much you can drink, but it's somewhere around a drink an hour roughly is the most that somebody should drink. And it really depends. So don't hold me to that, but that's just what I've heard. They have the state-run liquor stores all over the state, so you are not going to be able to get any of the good liquor without going there. So if you want your Jack Daniels or vodka or rum or tequila, anything that you want that's good, that's not beer or some sort of hard seltzer, you are going to the state-run liquor store. Those are closed on Sundays and holidays, and they have some unique hours, so you want to check into that. Anything above 5%, you're going to need to go to the state-run liquor store. You'll be able to get your Coors Light at the grocery store or gas station, but any sort of wine or hard alcohol you're going to be getting from the state-run liquor store. You're not supposed to bring back alcohol from other states. However, I've heard lots of people go to Las Vegas or Reno and bring back alcohol because it's supposed to be cheaper, but that's called bootlogging. So if you've heard of that, let me know in the comments. There's a myth that you need a membership card for bars. However, that's not true, so you don't need that anymore. They used to have that. They do have something similar to like what's called the Iron Curtain, but it's not the same thing. It just means that they can't mix alcohol at a restaurant within 30 feet of children. So you're going to find different places will have a bar and then you're not allowed in with your children, or some bars you can't have kids at all in. Like there's a place we like to go to in Daybreak, which is in South Jordan, and they have a bar where your kids aren't allowed in at all. So my kids can't enjoy the burger there, which I think is pretty good. You're going to see that about the bars and the alcohol. Just know that's why that is, that they have to be a certain distance. So like Chili's, for instance, has a bar, but it's not really a bar, but they make the drinks around the corner so that you can eat in the bar area with your kids. Pro number one, and this is the coolest thing I think about living in Utah in general, and it really doesn't matter which part of Utah you pick, is that you get year-round fun here. So whether you want to do stuff in the winter, spring, summer, fall, you can do that sort of thing. So in the wintertime, we have the best snow on earth here in Utah for skiing, snowboarding, snowmobiling, cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, basically anything that you can do in the snow. We got the snow. So there's places in southern Utah that you can go to near St. George to go skiing and all of that. And then there's places in northern Utah. And then in the Salt Lake City area, probably has the most resorts that you can choose from. But there's all over Utah you can do that in the wintertime. In the springtime, we have amazing temperatures. It's great for you to do stuff, different things that you weren't doing in the snow. The snow is melting, which leads to some amazing hiking, camping, fishing, mountain biking, fly fishing. You can go to Moab and Easter for the Jeep Safari, which I go to every year. It's absolutely awesome. It's about a 3.5 hour drive for me to get to Moab, but we will go there over Easter Jeep Safari, and I take my Jeep and my nephews take their Jeeps, and we do some trails there, and it's amazing. So it's a great place for you to go if you're into 4x4ing at all, to go to Moab or side by sides or dirt bikes. You see it all there. Anything in the dirt is awesome that you can do there. Summertime, you have boating on all the lakes that you can use here. We have fishing, camping, 4x4ing. Once again, in Moab, you can do that, although it gets really hot in the summertime. So it's really better to do it in the early summer, late spring, and then early fall, maybe. It starts to get cold in the fall as well. But then you have hiking, kayaking, canoeing. You can float tube down the Provo River and a couple other rivers. We did it the first year here. We float tube down the river for my daughter's birthday, and that was awesome. 2.5 hour little float down the river. Not very difficult, just a really relaxing thing you get to do in the water. They give you an extra inner tube if you pay for it, where you can bring your cooler and then have whatever beverage you want along the river, and that's awesome. And it's a great way to cool down. It's not as hot in the near where you do that at, but it's still warm enough that the water isn't freezing cold. But Utah pretty much allows anything that you want to do in the outdoors, as long as you don't require an ocean. So you're not going to be able to surf or boogie board or any of that sort of thing. But you can do that by going to California, and that's only like a 10-hour drive. Con number 2 is the housing costs here in Utah. The median home price for sale in Utah in 2023 so far, $525,000. So Salt Lake County, where I live, and in Salt Lake City, it's $600,000 for the median home price. Utah County, where Provo, Utah is located, you're looking at $575. So your dollar will stretch a little bit further in Utah County than it does in Salt Lake County. And then you're going to have different prices in St. George as well. Park City, the median sold price is between 1.8 and 3.8 million a month this year. Just so you're aware of that. So that kind of gives you a little bit of an overview. Prices here are not super affordable. It used to be really, really affordable to live in Utah. That ship sailed prior to COVID, and you've probably seen that in your area as well, where prices have just skyrocketed. Pro number 2 for living in Utah, and this is something that really wasn't on my radar, but when we moved to Salt Lake City, we didn't know that they had good public transportation. Nobody had kind of mentioned it, but they have something called the track system, the front runner train, and then busing and Uber, Lyft, and ride shares. My wife came out to visit family that live in Kaysville, her dad and brother, and she had taken some sort of public transportation to get from the airport up to where he's at in Kaysville. And she said it was super convenient and super cool. So we didn't really, other than that, I didn't know much about the public transportation here. But being here and doing videos for you guys and just seeing it, there's a track system that we can take from South Jordan that goes to the airport or to downtown or over to Draper, which would be faster to drive. But you can get around on public transportation in Salt Lake City. Elsewhere in the state, it's not as great. Like if you're in St. George, you're probably using buses, and then further north, it probably gets down to busing or nothing. But in the greater Salt Lake area from Utah County, Salt Lake County, you're going to be able to get around really easily on public transportation. Con number 3 is the weather, and this is something that we debated before we moved here from Nashville, because Nashville has a different weather than here. It has humidity. It's super dry here in Utah, but it can be really cold in Utah, and we've heard that it snows a lot. So the first year we were here, didn't really snow anything that made it a big deal. It snowed enough for our kids to play. They made snowmen, they made snow forts, all of that. I want to say we got 12 or 18 inches over like a 2-day period, and that was pretty much it. They plowed our driveway, they plowed the streets. We didn't really notice any sort of an issue. I think there was one day where my daughter needed to borrow my car to get to school that day, just because we felt a little uncomfortable with her in her rear-wheel drive car. But other than that, you got around. And by the time she got back from school, they had cleared up the roads enough, but she had to be there at 6 in the morning for school. And so we just felt it was better for her to use our car. But the biggest issue for me living here in Utah and the weather is really that it's super, super dry, which means that I have to use chapstick all the time on my lips because they'll get really dry. I have to use lotion a lot. If I don't use lotion, then I will itch myself to death, and I will end up with, it looks like Freddy Krueger went nuts on my legs because I itch so much. And then you need to drink a lot of water, which, no one's ever complained about you having to drink too much water. So I would say that's not really a bad thing. That's kind of the weather that's kind of bad here. Springtime, fall time is awesome. It's super, super nice. Summertime, it's been hot, but not too hot. It's been 100, 102, 105 in that range, but typically it's in the 90s for the summertime. Right now it's really hot this week, but we have a heat wave that happens every year. July and August, you just know, are really, really hot. So if you don't want to be here, then you go take a family vacation somewhere where it's cooler, or go up into the mountains. It's 20 degrees cooler up in Park City. So go rent a place to stay up in Park City or elsewhere in the mountains and stay for a week and get out of the heat. But this happens every year. It's hot, and every year it's cold at some point. So that's with weather. Pro number 3 was another thing I wasn't even considering. I mean, I have never really thought much about healthcare, but Utah has really good healthcare. They have good to great healthcare. So far, I've been to the doctor here quite a bit because I've been working on my blood pressure, getting it under control, and which medication and that sort of thing, in which I never did that prior years. We haven't had anyone have to go to a hospital here, so I can't really speak on how they are, but they look amazing, and they have a bunch of them all over. They have more hospitals where within a driving distance of 30 minutes of where I am now than I had all in Nashville. So there's a ton of hospitals here, and everyone that I talk to raves about the healthcare, and we've seen it be really, really good. So that's why that's pro number 3, the good to great healthcare. Con number 4 is something that I thought was really bad in Nashville, and that's awful drivers, terrible drivers, that sort of thing. And we found that Utah has worse drivers. So I didn't think that was possible because Nashville's surrounded by like 7 states. So you have 7 different states, people driving through the area. Utah has worse drivers. They drive really, really fast. So you're going to find people driving 80, 90, 100, 150 miles an hour on the freeway. They have this new thing that we've been seeing drivers do here. And I don't think I noticed it the first year we were here, but lately people will turn their signal on and then just come into your lane. So I don't know if they do that where you're at, but I don't ever remember noticing it before. However, they just feel like because I turned my signal on, that gives me the right to come over on you, even if I'm inches from hitting you, or you got to slam on your brakes so that they don't hit you. And so we have been noticing that lately. The other thing that we've seen is just people not signaling, which is pretty common everywhere. People just get over on you, which is different than them signaling and coming on you. People here in Utah really like to run red lights, and the police officers don't like to give tickets for red lights for whatever reason, even though it's completely unsafe. So what we've found we have to do is just wait that few extra seconds after the light turns green before you go, but not long enough where the person behind you honks because they think you're on your phone. But you got to be careful with that here because people do run the red lights. So they're just not good drivers, and then they will swerve over into your lane, and most of the time you can see that they are on their phone when they're doing that. So that could be a thing where they're doing it all over the nation. But comment below if you think you have bad drivers and where you're coming from so that I know that. Pro number 4 and con number 4 roll together, and that's taxes. So Utah has a flat tax of 4.65%, corporate tax of 4.65%. We have low sales tax of 6.1%, and then they have a max local tax on top of that they can put of 2.95%. So taxes here, I guess we're kind of in the middle of the road as far as taxes. It's not great. It's not terrible. They do tax Social Security income unless you make a certain amount, so you can check into that. But just know it'd be really nice moving from Nashville where we had no state income tax if Utah would go to a no state income tax and then just boost our sales tax rate higher to cover that, because that was really nice not to have to file that every year. Con number 5 is the traffic in Utah, and that's gotten worse and worse and worse every year. So if you live in a city like Los Angeles, Dallas, Texas, Houston, Atlanta, somewhere where you have really, really bad traffic, then you're going to say that our traffic is nothing here in Utah. However, every year it gets worse here in Utah because more and more people move here. More and more people figure out that Utah is so beautiful and so many things that you get to do. So they come We had the most tourists, I think, ever in Utah. Like 8 million came over the winter time because of our snow pack this year. And they don't seem to be expanding I-15 like they need to, or to put in something else so that we can get around faster. Maybe because we don't really have a big earthquake problem here, they could build an elevated carpool lanes above the freeway, and then they could give the one lane back for the carpool lanes back to the freeway, and then have you be able to zoom, in the carpool lane, give you a benefit for having that. But in the Salt Lake City area, you're going to have Bang or a Mountain View corridor that you're going to enjoy. Those will be a huge help once they're completed. They are open and everything, but they have certain streets where they don't have underpasses or overpasses, and you have to stop at the light. But that doesn't help you in St. George or elsewhere in Utah. But most people tend to live in the greater Salt Lake area. I think it's roughly 70-80% of the population lives there currently, although St. George is exploding and a great place to choose from as well. Pro number 5 is Utah is very family focused, family friendly. It's ranked number 2 in the country for family well-being. And then it's ranked number 1 for the average family size here of 3.51. I have 5 kids, so I help that number grow. But it's very family oriented, very family focused. I think a lot of that has to do with half of the people here belong to the LDS church. And they are very family oriented. So that helps with that. But you're going to find that it's very family oriented and everything. Does that mean that you have to have a family to live here? Absolutely not. We have tons of clients that have moved here, single or couples, and they love living here because of all the things that Utah has to offer. You don't really feel left out, and I don't think anybody shames you for not having kids here at all. I mean, I have kids that are older, 25 and 28, and they've never mentioned anything about that as well. Con number 6 is what's called the grid system, and that's how they do the street numbering here. So you're going to have like the street number 10,000 east by 5,000 south, and those are related to the temples, and each temple has their own grid system. So when you go further north or further south, that all changes. So once you get used to knowing that system and you figure out that, you're going to find that it's really, really nice, because when someone tells you that it's this by this, you'll be able to get where it is and know. However, for me, I'd rather you just tell me that it's by the Lowe's in Riverton, and then I know where that is. Much easier than 1,000 by 200. So it takes a little bit of getting used to. Once you get used to it, then it makes a lot more sense, and it's not really a big deal. And you'll actually kind of like it, and it'll turn from a con to a pro, but it takes some time for that to happen. Pro number 6 on the list, and that's the 5 national parks we have here in Utah. They are called the Mighty 5. They are Zion National Park, Arches National Park, Bryce Canyon National Park, Capitol Reef National Park, and Canyonlands National Park. So you get to enjoy all of those here in Utah, and they are awesome. If you haven't heard of them, they are something that you definitely have to visit. Some of them have a little bit of hiking to get to them, some of them don't, but just know that you are going to be able to see some incredible scenery, and that's why that's a pro. I haven't been to any of them since I was a little kid, and I don't really remember, but I think we went to Zion National Park when I was about 8 years old. So all of those parks are on my list to get to over the next couple years to see all 5 of them. So we're going to plot out some sort of way that we can hit a couple of them over a week period, and then do the rest of them either the next year or later in that year. Pro number 7 about living here, and this is a pro for most people, it's a con for me, but the food here, they have something called fry sauce. So you're going to find that different places have their own fry sauce, which is some sort of mayonnaise, ketchup, mustard mix that they do. And you're going to find either you really love it or you don't. And then they have something called funeral potatoes, and those are really, really popular here. And actually, I really like those. So the food scene here is really lots and lots of chains. So, you got In-N-Out Burger that you're going to really like, which is here. If you don't like In-N-Out because you didn't grow up with it, then you'll probably like Five Guys better. So you've got a bunch of different chain restaurants from Chili's, and so you have just a bunch of different chain restaurants. There are small mom and pop places but there just aren't as many as there used to be. A ton of good places for you to pick to choose from to eat here in Utah, whether you're in St. George or Salt Lake City, Park City. Just know that you're going to have good food choices. Pro number 8 on the list is Utah has good universities. So when we moved here, that was part of what made us move here. Was our daughter was going to be going to the University of Utah. About 2 weeks before she was set to go to college, she decided she didn't want to go to the college, so she flipped and went to Utah Valley University and got her culinary degree. So she's currently finishing that up with her internship. She'll be done in September, I think, with that, and then she will have graduated with a culinary degree. But they have University of Utah here, BYU, Southern Utah University, and that's in Cedar City. Cedar City is exploding in growth, which is a unique little area. It's about, I want to say it's about 45 minutes north of St. George, so you're close to St. George. That's a cool place to be. Just the universities here are good, and we didn't really do much research into them, but we have one set to go to the University of Utah in 2 years once he finishes high school, and then our youngest, who knows if he's going to end up wanting to go to college or not. We'll see. Right now, he doesn't really seem to have a big interest other than playing video games. Pro number 9 on the list is the job market here is incredible in Utah. The unemployment rate in the U.S. currently is 3.6%. Utah, it's 2.4%. We are ranked number 8th on the list. Best on the list is New Hampshire and South Dakota, and they're at 1.8%. So I don't know how you get that low. That's pretty much everybody working. But the job market here is incredible. We have something called Silicon Slopes that's in Lehi, where there's a ton of tech companies. Then you have Salt Lake City, tons of healthcare companies and other businesses. But you're going to be able to get a good job here in Utah, depending upon where you choose. Each of the cities is going to have different jobs, but the job market here in Utah is incredible. I'm planning to do a video here soon on jobs and the employment and everything in Utah, so you can look for that. If you subscribe to the channel, you'll get notified when I do that video. So hopefully you've enjoyed these pros and cons about living in Utah, and you want to make that move here to Utah. So whether you want to live northern, central, or southern Utah, I can help you anywhere. I have partners that I work with all over the state. So if it's not here in Salt Lake City, I can get you connected with a top agent in your area, and I'd love to talk to you about it. So give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email, and we can go over where you want to live, what you're looking for, all of that. And until next time, be rad.